So recently, someone on Twitter by the name of Scurvy Pirate Hog shared some information that really got me intrigued. And when I asked him where he got this information from, he said it was from one of the BumbleKast podcasts that Ian Flynn does. And what was this information, you may ask? Well, basically, it's the fact that in one of these podcasts, Ian Flynn revealed that originally the Virus Saga, which finished up in the IDW books recently, was originally meant to take place in the Archie Sonic books instead. And that got me wondering, okay, if that's true, and it's coming from Ian Flynn himself, when was it going to take place? Now, to back up this revelation by Ian Flynn, Scurvy Pirate Hog provided two panels, which I'll provide links to down below in the description box, where it looks like it's hinted at that the Virus Saga, or the Virus, was going to show up eventually. And in these two panels, which obviously take place at the end of one of the Sonic Universe arcs, focusing on Dr. Eggman and his egg bosses going up against Axis Nagus and his sister, one of these egg bosses acknowledges is that the Doctor entrusted them with a new experimental roboticizer to test out. Now, that's all we really get out of this. And basically the other panel that he shares shows one of the egg soldiers, mainly the egg soldier that allowed Bunny Rabbit to infiltrate the egg bases in the early start of the post-SGW soft reboot, as possibly being a test subject for them to try out the new roboticizer on, or the new version, the new more efficient and effective roboticizer on. But that's all we get. That's all the information we get. And Scurvy Pirate Hog speculated by sharing these two panels as if perhaps this is where the Metal Virus was being hinted at, but never occurred in the Archie books because of what happened behind the scenes. Which is really interesting. It's really intriguing and interesting to hear all that. But now the question obviously is, like I asked earlier, when would it have taken place? Because we know that Ian Flynn had plans for the Freedom Fighters to have a Sonic Universe arc where each issue was going to focus on one of the Freedom Fighters individually, teaming up with a Sega Sonic character to help them out. So the question is, would it have been hinted at in one of those arcs as well, one of those stories as well, or would they have saved it for being acknowledged and hinted at in the main book? That's a question I think any fan would want to know. Because, 292 basically is the starting point of going into that Freedom Fighters story arc for Sonic Universe. But again, like I said, it makes you wonder if one of those stories would have been the hinting at it or laying down the foundation for it taking place, or would we have found out more about it in the main book, and the main book would have been the foundation in which it was laid upon to basically begin growing into another big story arc that we would get down the road. One has to wonder. Another question a lot of people would have to wonder is exactly what would the roles of the Freedom Fighters be in a Metal Virus arc? Would some of them get affected, I should say? And obviously the obvious answer to that question is yes. You can't do a story like this without affecting some of the main characters, even some of the game characters. And I believe that's what would have happened. I believe you would have had some of the Freedom Fighters, even some of the game character Freedom Fighters, be affected by the virus. But then, of course, just like in the IDW book, they would have been restored. They would have been freed of it. Now, I believe one character that would have played a major part along with Sonic and maybe Sally would have been Nicole. Because Nicole, obviously, in this post-SGW reboot, or soft reboot, played a major role throughout. She played a major role in getting everybody's memories back in the early issues, in which established this post-SGW world. She had an arc in Sonic Universe dedicated to her origin and basically to develop her character and establish her character even more. And she played a major role in the final portion of the overall story arc that they did. So the question obviously is, would she have played a major arc here, or a major part here, in this story arc, in a Metal Virus arc, And I think she would have. I think she would have. And I think to create more drama, I think she would have been one of the characters affected by the metal virus. To the point that she would go from being a fully fleshed out AI to, if she got effective, to almost being like a slime girl, a goo girl, if you will. To where now she could stretch her body out like this. But here's what I think would have happened. I think because she would have been effective or affected by the virus, it doesn't mean she would have been under its influence. Being portrayed as being as powerful as she is, I think Nicole would have been the exception. Like, she would be the only affected character that would still maintain the free will, where everybody else that got affected would basically have to be freed somehow down the line, mainly by supersonic like we saw in IDW. But yeah, I think Nicole would have played a major role in the Metal Virus arc in a big, big way. But I also think that despite the fact that, we saw what happened in the IDW book, and how that all came to a close, I think honestly what we saw in the IDW book would have mirrored what we could have saw in the Archie book had it happened there. Basically, I think everything would have taken place just as it was. You would have had certain characters affected by the metal virus, and just as we saw it come to a conclusion and come to an end at the end of the IDW Metal Virus Saga, I think we would have saw the same thing with Archie Sonic. But the question is, though, again, when would this have happened? When would it have begun? When it would have been more hinted at, it more acknowledged, more referenced? Those are questions, one has to ask and wonder. But let me know what you guys think. What are your thoughts on the fact that Ian Flynn revealed in one of his BumbleKast podcasts that the Metal Virus arc was originally meant for Archie Sonic? And when do you think it would have happened had that gone as planned? Who do you think would have been affected? What big of a role do you think certain characters would have played? And again, when do you think it would have been hinted at, acknowledged, and referenced more so, and then finally revealed down the line in the book? Let me know down below. Comment if you like. I am out.